Hey, how's it going everyone? Dragonflight is just under a week away at the time I'm recording this, and so I thought it'd be a good time to talk about the leveling talent setup I'm going to be using for enhancement in Dragonflight. These are just my personal preference for leveling talents. Feel free to deviate. I think the most important thing you can do while leveling with your talent setup is to try out a lot of different things and just get a feel for the class in general. Find out what works for you, find out what's fun, and really just enjoy the leveling process. Alright, starting out here on the Shaman tree, the first thing I like to put a point into is Lava Burst. Now this is finally available to enhancement and it is going to be affected by our Maelstrom weapon stack. So this is going to be a really good ability and I think it's going to be a core part of the rotation endgame. So I like to get this and start having practice having it in the rotation early on. Likewise, I also like to go ahead and pick up Frost Shock here and then I follow that up by taking Wind Shear. If you're new to enhancement or if you're new to WoW in general, I definitely recommend getting your interrupt early on and just getting used to using it. From here, I like to go ahead and take Astral Shift just to have a defensive ability, and then I like to get Flurry. Now if you did play Classic, you'll probably recognize this. This will give us 15% attack speed for our next 3 attacks after we deal a critical strike. This will be a nice little boost to damage, and it pairs well with Lava Burst because Lava Burst is always going to crit if the target we use it on is affected by our Flame Shock. Next up, I like to go ahead and pick up Earth Elemental. Again, this is a nice defensive ability, and the conduit from Shadowlands that made the Earth Elemental give us a 15% boost to our maximum health while it's up has been baked into the ability directly now, so that's really cool to see back. From there, I like to go ahead and pick up Fire and Ice. This is just a 3% damage increase to all of our fire and frost damage. This is quite a bit of our damage, as we'll see once we get into the enhancement tree. And then below that, we can put a point into Ancestral Defense, which is just going to be a small boost to our Leech and Avoidance. I also like to go ahead and pick up Capacitor Totem early on just to have a nice AoE stun in case I need it. And then from here, the next tiers of talents are up or are available to us. So I like to go ahead and go down the right side first, putting 2 points into Nature's Fury. This will give us 4% increased crit strike with our nature spells. Again, this is going to pair well with the Flurry talent above it. Below Nature's Fury, we can put a point into Brimming with Life. This will cause our max health to be increased by 8% while Reincarnation is off of cooldown. Or if you do find yourself dying and having to use Reincarnate, then it will actually cause Reincarnate to refresh faster. So this is a pretty nice talent to have. And then next to that, we can take 2 points into Winds of Alakir just to get some bonus move speed for our Ghost Wolf ability. Below that, we can then put a point into Spirit Walk or Gust of Wind. I would say play around with both and figure out which one you like better. Personally, I like Spirit Walk and getting that burst of movement speed over 8 seconds more than I liked using Gust of Wind. From here, we're going to jump back to the left side and put a point into Wind Rush Totem or Earth Grab Totem. Now, neither of these are particularly useful while leveling, but they do unlock the Nature's Guardian talent next to them, which I really enjoy having. This is a great survivability tool because when we're brought below 35% health, then we will instantly heal for 20% of our maximum health, which is pretty significant. And this can occur every 45 seconds, so it's not a long cooldown by any means. Really nice to have. And then below that, we can go ahead and put 2 points into Improved Lightning Bolt just to get some bonus damage for our Lightning Bolt ability. This is going to pair really well with the talent we'll see in the enhancement tree later on. After 2 points into Improved Lightning Bolts, we have the final set of, or the final tiers of talents unlocked. So we're going to jump back to the right side, put 2 points into Surging Shields here. This is just going to increase the damage dealt by our lightning shield and increase the chance for it to give us a Maelstrom weapon stack. Really nice to have while leveling. And then that's going to finish off the right side. So we will jump back to the left side here, take 2 points into Elemental Warding, which is going to reduce all of the magic damage we take by 4%. Follow that up with a point into Healing Stream Totem and then 2 into Swirling Currents. Now, Swirling Currents on its own is going to increase the healing of our next 3 healing surges after using Healing Stream Totem. This isn't going to be overly noticeable for us while leveling, but it does lead into the Ancestral Guidance talent, which is going to be pretty nice sustainability tool. This is going to convert a portion of our damage into healing on ourselves and up to 3 of our nearby party or raid members. So This is really nice to have if you are doing any group content and needing to heal up some of your allies. This will lead us with 3 points in the Shaman tree remaining. I like to spread these across Guardian's Cudgel, which is going to basically put down 2 capacitor totems, one after the first one ends. Pretty nice to have. Plains Traveler, another good talent to pick up. It's going to reduce the cooldown of Astral Shift by 30 seconds and increase its duration by 4 seconds. And then I also like to take Spirit Wolf, which is going to give us stacking bonus movement speed while in Ghost Wolf form. Now, one alternative I will point out is that if you are finding yourself low on health or dying frequently, you might want to look at possibly taking Earth Shield. So if I remove some of these points here, once you're at the state in your talents like this, I might recommend taking Earth Shield followed by Elemental Orbit. Earth Shield will cause attackers to actually heal you when you do take damage, and then Elemental Orbit will pair well with that because it will allow us to wear both Earth Shield and Lightning Shield at the same time. This is pretty nice to have if you are struggling to survive and frequently find yourself low on health. From there, I like to go ahead and take Guardian's Cudgel a bit earlier into either Windrush or Earth Grab Totem, and then that way we can pick up Nature's Guardian. This will unlock the final set of talents, so go ahead and take 2 points into Surging Shields again, as well as 2 points into Improved Lightning Bolts. And then you can path on the left side, take 2 into Totemic Surge. This is going to reduce the cooldown of all of our totems by 4 seconds. And then we can then path down to Ancestral Guidance again. For the final point, I like to go ahead and just put in Plains Traveler here, or if you prefer Spirit Wolf, I think that's another good option. And that's going to wrap up the Shaman tree, so let's go ahead and jump on over to the Enhancement tree. Alright, starting out here in the Enhancement tree, we're going to pick up both Storm Strike and Lava Lash right away. 2 of our core abilities, definitely want to have those as soon as we can. Then we're going to follow that up by taking 2 points into Improved Maelstrom Weapon. This is what's going to cause our Maelstrom Weapon stacks to increase the damage of the spells that we're using them on. And then we're going to pick up Raging Maelstrom right below that. Now, Raging Maelstrom is going to increase the max amount of stacks of Maelstrom Weapon we can have by 5, which will give us back to the Shadowlands cap of 10. This also increases the damage that our spells do that are affected by Maelstrom Weapon by 5% per stack that we use on them. From here, we can go ahead and put a point into Wind Fairy Weapon. And then I like to go Ice Strike here. I've actually been having a lot of fun trying out this ability and playing around with it while leveling. Definitely recommend trying this out. And then we can take 2 points into Molten Assault. This is going to reduce the cast time or the cooldown time of Lava Lash, and it will cause Lava Lash to start spreading our Flame Shock to multiple targets. So really nice to have for AoE situations. With our next tier of talents unlocked, we can look to put a point into Overflowing Maelstrom. This is going to cause our abilities and healing spells to use up to 10 Maelstrom stacks, whereas before they could only use a max of 5. So this is pretty fun to play around with, and it pairs really nicely with Raging Maelstrom because that will give 5% damage boost per stack. So even if you can't use save and wait for 10 stacks, even if you're using say 6 or 7 or 8 stacks, you're still getting additional damage than just the 5 stacks like you would before. And then after that, we can put a point into Swirling Maelstrom. This is going to give us some additional generation of our Maelstrom weapon stacks. Next, I like to pick up some things for AoE, so I go and take Hailstorm, and that's going to pair nicely along with Ice Strike because Ice Strike will increase the damage of our next Frost Shock. So if you can get a pairing of Ice Strike and then Hailstorm together, this is really nice. And then afterwards, we can take a point into Crash Lightning. Now below Crash Lightning, we have 3 really good talent options. I like to start by taking 2 points into Elemental Weapons. This is going to increase our Fire, Frost, and Nature spell damage by an additional 10%. And then from there, I like to go and take Crashing Storms. This will increase the damage of our Crash Lightning, and it will cause our Chain Lightning to jump to 2 additional targets. And then finally, in between those, we have Converging Storms. This will cause each target to hit by Crash Lightning to increase the damage of our next Storm Strike by 25%. Up to a maximum of 6 stacks in that. So all these are going to work together really nicely. From here, I like to pick up Sundering, and then I like to go over here and take Storm Flurry. And then afterwards we can take a point into Storm's Wrath as well. This will then unlock the final tier of talents for us, where we can start off by taking a point into Feral Spirits. And then I like to immediately put 2 points into Witch Doctor's Ancestry. This is going to increase the chance to get a Maelstrom weapon stack, and when we do get a Maelstrom weapon stack, the cooldown of Feral Spirits will be reduced. And then we can jump over on the left side here and pick up a point into Primordial Wave. This is our old Necrolord Covenant ability. This is going to do some initial damage to targets and then apply Flame Shock to our targets. And then the next time we cast Lightning Bolt, it will hit all enemies around us that have Flame Shock applied to them. So this is another really nice AoE tool. The Primal Maelstrom talent below that is also really complementary to this, because it will cause Primordial Wave to also generate 10 stacks of Maelstrom weapon when it's used, meaning we can cast Primordial Wave and then immediately cast our Lightning Bolt afterwards at max Maelstrom weapon stacks. This also leads into Splintered Elements, which is going to cause each Lightning Bolt generated by our Primordial Wave to increase our haste by 10%. Again, a really nice tool to have for AoE and killing targets very quickly. With our last 3 points here, I like to go ahead and put 2 points into Elemental Assault. This is going to give us some additional Maelstrom weapon generation, and it's also going to increase the damage of our Storm Strike. And then our final points can go into Storm Blast. This is going to cause our Stormbringer to cause our next Storm Strike to deal an additional 25% of its damage as nature damage. And I think this rounds off a fairly good leveling tree that's going to have a balance between some AoE and some single target damage. There are alternatives to this for sure. One thing that I have seen a bit is people going Legacy of the Frost Witch and then pathing down up here for Doomwind. So that might look something like, so if we drop points here, put those in up here in Forceful Winds and Unruly Winds, and then Doomwinds, keep our point into Feral Spirits and go 2 points into Legacy of the Frost Witch here. And then we can also path down, get Primordial Wave, Splintered Elements, and 2 points in Witch Doctor's Ancestry. I think this is another fairly good path for leveling. Right now, if you're level 60, you can play around with this a bit. You can have points like something like this, maybe, where you do have those 2 points in Legacy of the Frost Witch, and you do have a point in Doomwinds as well here. And this is going to be at level 59, so this is where you're going to be at on pre-patch currently. And I've been playing around with this a bit. It is a little difficult to get Legacy of the Frostwitch and Doomwinds in sync, as I've been going around doing a little bit of questing around 60. So for leveling, I don't know if this is that great of a build, but I am interested in how this build would actually do in in-game content. One other build I'll point out is if you are doing a lot of dungeon content and doing a lot of AoEing, you might want to look towards getting Fire Nova here rather than Hailstorm. And if that's the case, maybe don't take a point in Ice Strike, and maybe even pat down and get kind of your more focused build on Storm Strike in that case. So you might end up with something more like maybe something more like this. I think this gives us 1 extra point here, and we could probably put that in Elemental Spirits. Like this would be a pretty solid leveling build as well, especially if you're doing a lot of dungeon grinding. It's going to give you a bit more AoE with Fire Nova, and this one might be a little bit nicer if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed by the amount of abilities the enhancement has, because now you're not taking Ice Strike, so you don't have to worry about that extra ability. If you don't go Ice Strike and you don't go Hailstorm, you could also look at dropping Frost Shock from your Shaman Talent tree as well. Ultimately though, when it comes to these leveling builds, like I said before, I think the most important thing while leveling is just trying out a variety of different things, seeing what works for you and what is most fun to you, because ultimately, unless you're pushing the highest possible in-game content and trying to min-max, then playing things that you're comfortable with is going to be what is the best experience for you. Anyways, that's going to do it for my ramblings. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully it was somewhat helpful. If you are interested in more Enhancement Shaman content in the future, definitely consider subscribing, and hopefully you're back for the next one.